on the other side of that, do you support sabbaticals for public servants going into work in the NGO sector for 6 months a year at a time?
Look, I think particularly, I think that's a great idea. I think it can be done more often, except, I mean, as you all know, working in the non-government sector, you have to take about a 30% salary cut. So it's a bit of an unattractive position. But particularly if you look at, again, I'd bring you a small town perspective. If you're working in a small community and you want to do something different, you often have to leave that community. But if there was that arrangement where you could work between government and non-government, I think a lot of people would really appreciate that in terms of their understanding and also that change of perspective. But I think it's something that is often too hard to do. I have known cases where people from government have gone to work in non-government organisations and vice versa, where they're treated with great suspicion, as though you're the other side bringing a kind of fifth column activity into that organisation. I had one fellow say to me in Adelaide, he'd worked in non-government, went and worked in government, they never trusted him. They said, you're not really one of us. So there's probably some culture change to happen there as well.
Yes, right on the very end, thank you. You see him.
Hello Claire, Stuart Tubbs from Department of Human Services. It's just about 3 years exactly since the Shires were brought into being in the Northern Territory, and I remember you starting your speech by talking about the intimacy of the relationship with your constituents. I just wonder if you could reflect on the implementation of the Shires and perhaps explore whether or not that has had any positive impacts on the level of engagement with citizenry in Northern Territory.
Yeah, there was many, like other parts of Australia, the Northern Territory decided to, instead of having individual local governments in many tiny communities, have a shire approach, so that some of the dysfunction that we saw constantly in those communities and the running of their local governments would end. Unfortunately, I mean, it was a big change in the Northern Territory to move from those local government decision-making in communities to a more shire approach. Unfortunately, that happened at the same time as the intervention. So Aboriginal communities were kind of struck from all sides by so many things happening. So the actual implementation of the Shires was tougher than initially was intended to be. As I said, with not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach to anything, in the Territory, some Shires are working very well and some Shires are struggling. But I think in time we will see that once the balance has been gained between a kind of Shire that runs an area the size of Victoria, which is a challenge in itself, you get that they will then find the balance between what are the kind of Shire responsibilities, but also getting that local decision-making happening as well. I think that's been the biggest challenge so far, to get that balance between the kind of broad approach and also the local community approach. But I'm confident, and I've seen some Shires that are working very well, that we have seen a change, and given time, it will be for the better.
Last quick question. Yes, just here, then this will be the last. Okay.
Hi Claire, Peter Baldwin, Department of State Development in Western Australia. Over the past couple of days we've heard a lot about the media cycle and the role that the media play in policy. I guess just thinking of your examples and the roles that you've been in, I'd like to get your views on how they influence, in your mind, policy making, the partnerships with the community, influencing the community.
Lindsay Tanner's kind of had the kind of march on this one for the last few weeks. Look, I think coming from nearly 20 years working in the media, I mean, I'm a strong supporter of the media. I think sometimes when you are trying to implement difficult policies, the media can make it tougher for you, but they can also make it easier. And they can also be that conduit to the community where you can explain what you're doing. I have mostly worked in a smaller media market where it was much easier to engage. I think that the national media market, the media market we've seen so much on display in Britain recently, I think they make it much tougher. And I think the 24-hour news cycle is also making it much tougher for being both a politician and trying to get some long-term view of how policies might change. I mean, you've got to respond so quickly and so regularly along the way of those policy changes that it makes it a lot tougher. So I think there's, for public service, for politicians, there are some real challenges about how the media is developed and how you manage it. But by using the new social medias, by, you know, kind of not falling into the trap of the kind of semi-hysteria a politician can get, and I put my hand up for this. I mean, you know, when you're attacked or when you're confronted by the media often, you can often make knee-jerk responses that you actually don't have to make, but it's hard at the time not to do it. So I think politicians and government has to get a steadier approach to the media and a more long-term approach to it, but it's not easy. Not easy at all.